As of today, Tuesday, May 26, 2026, several of the abducted teachers, women, and children taken during the attacks on schools in Oriire local government area of Oyo State are still being held in captivity. And that reality should disturb the conscience of any functioning society. Because this is no longer only the story of a murdered teacher named Michael Oyedokun, whose execution was video circulated across Nigeria. This is a continuing story of children sleeping in locations under armed control, mothers separated from their families, teachers whose only offense was showing up to educate students, and communities trapped in emotional paralysis of waiting for news that still has not come. Among those reportedly held are female teachers, including Mary Akombi, a nursing mother with a baby under 1 year old. The baby is in captivity too, just so you know. There are other abducted staff members and school children, some as young as 2 years old. And every additional day in captivity deepens the psychological violence of this tragedy, because captivity is not a paused experience. It is an active, ongoing trauma happening hour after hour, day after day, while the rest of the society continues moving. Families wake up each morning calculating how many days their loved ones have spent in fear, uncertainty, exhaustion, and vulnerability. And there's something devastating about parents being forced to imagine what armed captivity feels like for their children who should be in classrooms, eating breakfast before school, complaining about homework, or sleeping beside their mothers at night. The fact that these victims are still in captivity today, May 26th, makes this more than a post. It is a present and continuing emergency unfolding in real time. Right? In a country where school invasions and kidnappings have become frighteningly familiar, and where citizens increasingly carry the very painful belief that there are people benefiting from insecurity, protecting insecurity, negotiating insecurity, or politically surviving through insecurity, while ordinary Nigerians bury their dead and pray for their abducted family to return alive. The emotional weight of that belief cannot be separated from the trauma Nigerians carry daily, because once people begin to feel that violence is sustained through systemic compromise and political influence rather than isolated criminality, fear changes into distrust of institutions themselves. There is a brutal emotional cruelty in the public nature of this tragedy, because the same society watching the execution video of Oyedokun online is also fully aware that women and children remain somewhere in captivity tonight, alive, afraid, waiting, and yet around them continues almost normally. Traffic continues, conversations continue, politics continue, and social media moves on from one tragedy to another, while families remain psychologically trapped inside this nightmare every minute of every day. This is how communal trauma forms. It's not only through violence itself, but through repeated exposure to unresolved violence that teaches citizens that pain has no guaranteed resolution, and that safety can disappear at any moment, even inside schools. For teachers across Nigeria, this attack carries another layer of terror, because it sends a message that even the people responsible for building literacy, structure, discipline, and social development are no longer protected by the moral boundaries of society. And when teachers, especially in our remote villages, are kidnapped, murdered, and filmed publicly, the damage extends beyond individual victims into the emotional architecture of an entire nation. Children absorb fear from adults. Communities absorb hopelessness from repeated insecurity, and generations grow up learning to normalize danger in places where safety should have been guaranteed.